Hey man, let's talk straight, because there's a language women speak when they want something, and it's never just about the words they use. If a woman wants to sleep with you, she doesn't announce it. She hints. She plays in that gray area where plausible deniability lives. But her body language, her energy, her tone, they all tell the real story. You see, most men are out here looking for permission. They're waiting for a woman to say, "I want you." But by the time she says it that directly, it's usually too late. The moment's passed, the attraction has already shifted, and you've been classified as the guy who doesn't get it, the guy who missed the signs, the guy who needed to be told. But if you want to be the man who doesn't miss that moment, you've got to learn to read the unspoken. So what does she actually say? She'll say things like, "I don't usually do this, right?" As she leans in a little closer. She'll say, "You're trouble," while she bites her lip and makes no move to leave. She'll tell you she feels so comfortable with you, like she's known you forever, even though you just met last week. These aren't innocent phrases, they're invitations cloaked in innocence. She's not spelling it out, but she's handing you the script. And if you're the kind of man who leads, who doesn't second guess his energy, you won't freeze up. You'll respond with calm, controlled confidence. Because women don't want to make the first move, they want to feel like they had no choice. You have to understand how attraction works in her mind. She's emotionally driven. She's not calculating your stats or logic. She's following a vibe and instinct. And if you give her a safe space to feel wild in, that's when the magic happens. So when she starts saying things like, "I never meet guys like you," or "You're different," don't brush it off. That's not a compliment. That's a test. She's opening the door to intimacy, but she needs to see if you're aware enough to walk through it. Not with force, not with desperation, but with grounded, masculine energy that says, "I already knew." Because the second she feels like she's in the presence of a man who gets it, her guard drops, not out of pressure, but out of desire. But here's where most guys mess it up. They hear, "I don't usually do this," and they start explaining, justifying, trying to play it safe. They say, "It's okay. We don't have to do anything you're not comfortable with," which is noble, but also weak when overused. You're not her therapist. You're not her guilt sponge. If a woman is hinting at sex, what she's really testing is whether you're emotionally strong enough to handle her vulnerability. Not to push it, but to hold it. So when she gives you those verbal cues, don't treat them like roadblocks. Treat them like checkpoints. She wants to feel like she's being seduced without having to ask for it. She'll say it with her voice, sure, but her real language is the way she touches your arm mid-laugh, how she lingers when she hugs you, how her legs stay uncrossed, and her gaze stays locked. These are ancient signals coded deep into her biology. It's not manipulation, it's communication, and the man who misses this, he gets filed under sweet, safe, or worst of all, just a friend. But the man who sees it, who doesn't flinch, who doesn't overthink, he becomes the experience, not the option, not the maybe, the moment. Because she's not looking for a checklist of reasons, she's looking for feeling, and if you can give her that, the rest becomes inevitable. You want to know the deepest truth? She wants to feel like it just happened. Like her rational brain was hijacked by the energy between you. That's why she'll say things like, "I can't believe I'm saying this," or "This feels so crazy." She's not confessing, she's creating a narrative. One where she's not judged, where the rules don't apply, where her desire can live without shame. And your job as a man isn't to challenge that. Your job is to protect that space. Don't rush it. Don't talk too much. Let your presence be the seduction. Because when she starts crafting those sentences, when she starts giving you exceptions to her rules, it's not about logic. It's about the fact that her body has already decided. You need to stop listening for the yes. She'll rarely say it that way. Instead, listen for the permission hidden in the phrase, "I'm not like this with other guys." That's her way of saying, "I want this, but I need to feel like this is different." She's not looking for just sex. She's looking for emotional safety in the middle of her own chaos. And if you react with validation instead of neediness, with calm instead of pressure, she feels it. She feels the difference between a boy chasing a notch and a man anchoring the moment. And that difference, that's what makes her obsess. That's what makes her want it again. Another line to watch for, "I feel like I can be myself with you." Now, you might hear that and think it's just a throwaway compliment, but it's not. That's code for, "You've made me feel safe enough to explore my edge." And when a woman says that, you're already halfway in. She's mentally preparing herself to do something bold, something that feels right but also risky. And if you hold that space without flinching, without getting overly excited, she'll lean in further. Because now she doesn't feel like she's being seduced. She feels like she's choosing it. That distinction, that's the key to making her feel obsessed afterward, not just satisfied. And when she hits you with the classic, "we probably shouldn't," as she stays exactly where she is, that's the moment. That's the invitation. She's pretending to resist, to give herself moral cover, but she doesn't move. She doesn't shift. She's looking for you to either shrink or lead. If you retreat, she loses interest. But if you stay calm, if you meet her gaze with certainty, if you touch her hand without hesitation, that's when she melts. Because now you've shown that you're not just aware, you're intentional, and that is what makes her body say yes before her mouth ever does. Look, this isn't about tricks. It's about understanding female psychology. Women communicate desire indirectly because it lets them maintain innocence. It gives them the story they can tell themselves the next day. "It just happened," she'll say. And that's the story she needs to feel good about it. Your job as a man is to honor that unspoken dance, not to push, not to beg, not to label, but to know. To move with confidence, so calm it becomes irresistible. And when you do, she won't need to say much at all. Because desire, it doesn't speak in full sentences. It whispers in the space between them. Another phrase that's far more telling than it seems: "What are we even doing right now?" She'll throw that out with a smirk or a sideways glance, and it sounds playful, but underneath it is raw anticipation. What she's really saying is, are you man enough to take the lead? Are you gonna let this moment pass? She's giving you the chance to shift the energy, to turn the unsaid into action. And most guys get caught up trying to overanalyze that moment, trying to keep it respectful or cool, but the truth is, women don't remember the men who waited for permission. They remember the ones who read the vibe and moved with intention. And then there's the playful boundary phrase, "Don't get any ideas." She'll say it after teasing you, after touching your arm, after inviting you over late at night. Brother, that's not a boundary, it's bait. It's her way of watching how you respond. If you laugh and lean back with calm confidence, if you let your eyes say what your mouth doesn't, you're passing the test. But if you start pulling back, getting awkward, second-guessing yourself, you've just demoted yourself from the category of possibility to predictability. She doesn't want a man who can't handle a little tension. She wants a man who can hold fire without flinching. Let's not forget the classic, "You're such a bad influence." If she says that while she's still sitting next to you, still texting you at midnight, still showing up when she doesn't have to, she's not resisting, she's relaxing into her desire. That phrase isn't a rejection, it's an admission. She's telling you, without outright saying it, that you're waking something up in her that she's been craving, but can't access in her usual world. Her routines, her rules, her filters, they all fall away in the presence of a man who makes her feel, not think, not calculate, just feel. And then, she'll drop the seemingly innocent line, "I probably shouldn't be here right now." Translation, "I want to be here so bad, it scares me." That's the real message. She's battling the version of herself that plays it safe. But when you hear that line and stay grounded, when you make her feel understood without being judged, she starts to surrender, because you've shown her that you're not threatened by her conflict. You're steady. You're not here to convince her, you're here to be who you are. And in that energy, she doesn't just feel safe, she feels alive. There's another version of the same signal that sounds like this: "You make it hard to be good." If you ever hear that pause, let that sentence breathe. Because what she's really telling you is, "I've been trying to behave, but you're making it impossible." She's giving you the green light, but she's doing it in a way that preserves her sense of innocence. And the worst thing you can do in that moment, start talking too much. Just smile. Let the silence carry the weight. Sometimes, the most seductive thing a man can do is say nothing. Just let his energy fill the space between them. And don't ignore the late night texts that say, "What are you up to?" Especially after 10 p.m. That's not small talk. That's her checking the temperature, seeing if the door is open. It's an invitation wrapped in casual language. Most men take it at face value, responding with boring answers. But a man who knows what time it is doesn't need to overthink. He responds with presence, with suggestion, with something that pulls her deeper without being explicit. Why? Because the men who make women feel obsessed are never overt. they're undeniable. You know what else she might say? This feels dangerous. Now don't get it twisted. That's not fear. That's excitement. That's her way of saying you've stirred something primal in her, something unscripted. And if you understand women at a deep level, you'll know that danger is often the word they use when something feels too good to control. She's leaning into her edge, and she's watching to see if you'll push her over it or pull away. And in that moment, you can either give her the space to fall into desire, or you can kill the vibe by doubting yourself. Choose wisely. And here's a subtle one. I've never done this before. Brother, that's not always true. It's not always false either. What it really is a disclaimer. A story she tells herself so that the experience feels like an exception. Women need that narrative because in her world, sex isn't just physical, it's emotional, psychological, even symbolic. If she's about to give herself to you, she wants to believe it's rare, that you're the outlier, the exception to the rule. And when she says that line, you don't argue with it, you honor it, you let her live in that moment, because it makes her feel safe to surrender without shame. There's another variation of this. You're not like the others. That's not just a compliment, that's a setup for something deeper. She's prepping herself emotionally to cross a line, and she wants to believe you're worthy of that risk, but she also wants to see if you'll fumble it, if you'll get cocky, if you'll ruin the moment by chasing too hard, and if you're a man with emotional discipline, with presence, with calm magnetism, you won't flinch. You'll accept the compliment like it's obvious. Because when you treat her desire as normal instead of a surprise, you give her permission to feel it fully. Finally, she might say nothing at all. She might just look at you with eyes that hold a question, a tension, a silence filled with possibility. And in that moment, there's no script, no line, just energy, the kind that can't be faked, the kind that either lives or dies in your presence. And what separates men who get chosen from men who get passed over is what they do in that silence. Do you hesitate, or do you hold her gaze like you already know the ending? Do you shift nervously, or do you stay still, grounded, letting her feel the heat rise on her own? Because sometimes the thing she says when she wants to sleep with you isn't said at all, it's felt. She might playfully say, "You're trouble," with a smile that begs you to prove her right. That's not an insult, that's her way of teasing herself out of her own restraint. She's not warning you, she's warning herself. She's acknowledging the electricity, the pull, the undeniable chemistry building between you. And when a woman feels that kind of danger, the emotional, not the physical, she wants to explore it, but only with a man who doesn't make her feel judged for wanting it. So your job isn't to confirm or deny her accusation. Your job is to hold eye contact and say nothing at all. Just let the tension speak. Then there's the "I probably shouldn't be telling you this" line. That's not just her being open, it's her building an emotional bridge. She's inviting you into the private parts of her world, her secrets, her memories, her shame. And why does that matter? Because when a woman begins disclosing her vulnerability, her body is not far behind. Emotional exposure is the gateway to physical desire. If she starts revealing things about her past, her fears, her dreams late at night, that's a deeper kind of intimacy, and most men miss it because they think sex is about escalation. It's not. It's about invitation, a very subtle but powerful phrase. "Don't fall in love with me." She'll say it jokingly, casually, as if she's warning you, but what she's really doing is hoping you don't take it literally, while testing whether she's safe to let go with you. It's her way of easing her own guilt, giving herself permission to feel what she's already feeling. When she says that line, your response determines whether the night ends in fantasy or frustration. You don't reassure, you don't promise anything, you just smirk, stay present, and say, "We'll see." Because her desire isn't logical, it's emotional, and she's already halfway there. Sometimes, she'll switch it up with, "You better not break my heart." Again, it's not about heartbreak, it's about attachment. It's her way of saying, "I already feel something, and I'm trying to slow it down before I get too deep." This is your cue, not to flood her with validation, but to remain solid. Let her feel the tension of wanting more, but not quite having it yet. That's where obsession is born, not in giving everything all at once, but in letting her crave the next layer. And when she senses that you're not rushing, that you're not needy, that you can hold back as much as you give, she'll start leaning forward, hard. One of the most telling moments comes when she says, You're making it really hard to be good. That's her truth escaping. That's her desire showing its face without full commitment. That's her emotional mind giving in while her logical mind tries to pretend it isn't happening. When she says that, you don't apologize. You don't try to fix it. You stay grounded, you stay playful, and you stay available without being overeager. Because this is when most men ruin it by reacting too much. But the man who becomes unforgettable is the one who can sense her desire without chasing it. Don't overlook the accidental touches, followed by oops, sorry. She brushes your leg under the table. She leans just a bit too close. She adjusts her seat so your shoulders meet. And when you react, she throws in a laugh or a shrug, saying, oops, but that's not accidental. It's her way of checking your receptivity. She's breaking the touch barrier without taking responsibility. Because if you respond with panic or withdrawal, she gets her answer, you're not ready. But if you stay calm, if you touch her back just once, confidently and without hesitation, you just told her yes without saying a word. And then there's I shouldn't have had that second drink. Translation, I've decided what I want, and I'm just softening the edge. That's not about alcohol, it's about permission. She's giving herself the excuse to follow her impulse without owning it fully. And that's not deception, it's strategy. Women aren't allowed to be direct without judgment in most of society, so they've learned to speak in signals. And your ability to read those signals makes all the difference between being the guy she kisses once and the man she obsesses over long after the moment has passed. Another loaded phrase, you're dangerous, said with a smile, maybe a hint of hesitation, but her body is still leaning toward you. That line means you've touched something deeper, something in her emotional body that doesn't feel safe but feels alive. And if you're the kind of man who doesn't react with fear, if you continue leading with grounded, intentional energy, she'll start to trust you more than she trusts herself. Because you're not trying to steal something, you're simply allowing her to feel herself in a way no one else does. That's what makes you unforgettable. And when she says you're too good to be true, that's not a compliment, it's a confession. She's battling her own disbelief that she's feeling this much this fast. She wants to pull back, but she's hoping you'll prove her wrong. And here's where you must not get defensive. You don't need to explain that you're genuine. You don't need to overcompensate. You just stay calm and let her wrestle with her feelings while never doubting who you are. Because that tension, that mystery, that's what draws her in. Not logic, not persuasion, presence. And finally, when she simply says, be careful with me, she's telling you everything you need to know. That's not about fragility, that's about emotional readiness. She's warning you that she's stepping into a place where she could lose herself. And if you respond with strength, with steady leadership, with emotional maturity, she'll hand you everything, not because you demanded it, but because you created the space for it. The men who get women to open like this don't force the door. They stand there calmly until it unlocks on its own. And by the time it does, she's already chosen you. Sometimes, it's not even what she says, it's how she says it. A long pause before answering, a soft laugh after your joke, a quiet when she tastes the wine you recommended. These micro signals aren't random, they're instinctive, subtle reveals of her internal state. A woman's desire leaks through her tone, her rhythm, her hesitation. When she elongates her words or lowers her voice, she's not trying to seduce, she is seduced. And if you're the man with enough stillness to feel that shift instead of talking over it, you tap into something deeper than physical, something primal. She'll ask you weird questions like, do you always look at women like that? Or are you always this charming? She's not really curious, she's processing her own desire. These questions are projection. She's externalizing the heat rising inside her, trying to place it somewhere outside of herself. What she really wants to know is, am I the only one who feels this? And your job is not to confirm or deny, it's to hold that tension with playful calm. You can flirt back, sure, but don't overindulge, don't chase. Because in that space of emotional suspense, obsession is born. She might even test you with, you're probably a heartbreaker, huh? And that line is layered. On the surface, it's flirtation, but underneath, it's a request for reassurance. Please don't be like the others, please don't play me. And you as the man have the power to turn that fear into attraction, not by explaining yourself, but by embodying consistency. Let your eye contact tell the truth. Let your silence speak volumes. Let your calm be the answer. Because words can lie, but energy doesn't, and women are far more attuned to the latter than they let on. When she starts finding excuses to touch you, "Oh my god, your hands are so big," or "I like your shirt, where'd you get it?" Those aren't just compliments, they're bridges. She's inching closer, moment by moment, and seeing if you'll hold that space. If you stiffen up, if you act surprised, if you become a robot trying to act cool, you've just closed the door she cracked open. But if you remain relaxed, if you return the compliment with a grin, if you match her energy without leaning in too far, she feels it, she sees it, and she starts trusting you with more, including her body. Don't underestimate the time she says, "You're bad," with a playful tone. That's not judgment, it's surrender in disguise. She's telling you, "You're pulling me out of my rational frame and into something reckless, and I like it." That's when you don't clarify, you don't defend, you don't try to be good, you just smirk and say, "Only when necessary." That ambiguity lights up her emotional world like fire, because now she sees you as not just confident but dangerous in the best way. And that danger, that thrill, that's what she'll keep coming back for. When she drops lines like, "I don't know why I trust you," that's not her seeking validation. It's her revealing that she's already decided to let you in. She's feeling herself move toward you without full control, and rather than fight it, she's naming it. But that naming is a crossroads moment. If you overtalk it, if you rush it, if you push too hard, she retreats. But if you stay calm, if you remain present, if you honor the moment for what it is, without trying to capitalize on it, she falls even deeper. Because now she doesn't just want you, she respects you. She may suddenly ask, "Why are you single?" Seemingly out of nowhere. It's not about your relationship history, it's her justifying why she wants you. It's her internal story needing to match her external actions. She wants to believe there's a reason she's attracted to you beyond just chemistry. And your answer? It shouldn't be logical. It should be true. Say, "Because I'm not in a rush. I wait for energy that matches mine." That kind of response doesn't just answer her, it electrifies her. Because now she knows this man isn't starving, he's selective, and that makes her want to be chosen. She might say, "I feel like I've known you forever." That's not small talk, it's an indicator that her walls are falling. That's her admitting that her emotional body is skipping steps. And when she says that, don't just nod and move on. Let that moment stretch. Touch her arm, meet her eyes, let the silence speak, because in that gap, she's not thinking anymore, she's feeling. And when a woman feels deeply enough around you, physical intimacy becomes inevitable. Not because you forced it, but because you allowed it. One of the last things she'll say before everything shifts is, "I've never done this before." It doesn't matter whether it's true. What matters is that she wants it to be true with you. She wants the moment to feel sacred, singular, unique. And your role is to make it feel that way. Not by dramatizing it, but by staying connected, by staying present, by not treating her like an object or a conquest, but like a woman who's choosing to surrender something deeply human. When she feels that you honor her surrender, she gives it all, and that's when obsession is born. In the end, the lines she says before sleeping with you aren't random, they're rituals, they're emotional checkpoints, and if you listen closely, if you stay present, if you stop chasing and start reading, you'll see that desire doesn't live in overt expressions. It lives in the spaces between words, in the pauses, in the flickers of doubt followed by surrender. And the man who earns her obsession isn't the one who says all the right things. It's the one who listens deeply, moves slowly, and lets her cross the bridge herself, while he waits on the other side, calm, grounded, and ready.